Hello, and welcome to this Jargon Buster on cloud computing. We all understand what we mean when we talk about the cloud, but is that still true when we talk about cloud computing? At its most basic level, the cloud is, of course, the internet, a network of networks. But a network is nothing without something to connect to. So when we talk about the internet or the cloud, by inference, we mean the servers and the storage and all the other bits and pieces at the back end. So, cloud computing opens up a can of worms. What exactly does it mean? Is it anything other than a new name for the once trendy application service provision? Or is it the start of a revolution in the way that we use computing resources? Here's what Camille Mendler of the Yankee Group thinks.
Let's start with a definition. So a definition would be the virtualization of computing assets delivered on demand over the internet. That's a very broad definition of cloud computing, and it incorporates a number of different components. Okay? Now, do you want me to go through some of these components? Okay. So what most people have heard of is software as a service, or SaaS. What a name. Anyway, so that's where, you instead of having the software on your computer or on the server, it's in the cloud. It's in the cloud and you're using it as you wish and you're paying for it on a monthly basis, okay? That's one aspect of cloud computing. I think another interesting aspect is storage as a service. We've already talked about inefficient data center environments. Well, that's related to that. And the marketing boys and girls have been very active in this cloud computing area. So you've got storage as a service, and that's using the storage arrays on demand again, virtualized in the cloud, and that might mean you getting rid of your entire data center, or you might be using a data center as a service. There's also aspects of infrastructure in the cloud. That's where we talk about, a whole array of different types of computing environments, the entire IT infrastructure. There's also the platform as a service, right? And that's the management platform. It's sort of again, it's about whether the intelligence resides on site with you or in a cloud environment managed by a third party.
Okay, so I'm an enterprise IT manager. Why would I want to lose that amount of control, pay even more money to the bit carriers?
All right, cloud computing is an interesting political issue for enterprises because there's a real difference in, I think, thinking about this between the IT department and perhaps other departments that are not technology focused, including executive management. If you look at one aspect of cloud computing, which is software as a service, the uptake of it has happened in a way that completely disintermediates the IT department. They're not making the decision. About 80% of decisions around software as a service are not made by IT people. They might be brought in at some point in the decision-making process. It's a departmental level, or, which is a scary thought, individuals are bringing in and using some of these tools unofficially, right? If we're talking about in an official context, executive management is a large percentage of this. And so, as I said, line of business departments, not IT. So IT thinks, well, there might be fewer of us if we go to a cloud computing environment. And so I think a lot of that poison is being disseminated. But, they've got reasons to be concerned, not just from their job safety, but actually for the safety of the network environment. Is it actually secure? Now, I think that there are a lot of questions around the security of cloud computing that are entirely relevant. And this is where an IT department does have a role, but a different role. Look, most IT departments, 60% of their activity is around firefighting, break fix. It's not about, developing, new types of applications, enhancing business processes. You might view cloud computing in one context as a way to get rid of the clutter to help them focus on strategic activities.
Yeah, but is it a solution for enterprises large and small?
I think that the benefits of cloud computing, and remember, it's a very rich and varied landscape of what you can offer. For every single enterprise, there is an argument to be made. If we start with the small enterprise, they have no IT resources. The office manager might be making decisions. Are they in a situation where they can keep up with, software licensing? Have they got the right software? What about the cost of maintenance and all the rest of it? And troubleshooting with individual employees? Put it in the cloud. And there is a contract to deal with those types of issues on a predictable cost. Because let's assume you are that office manager. You're paid to do X function. It does not necessarily IT. So you're taking away from you what you should be paid to be doing. So that's efficient. And then speaking of efficiency, if we look at medium-sized companies, they have actually very complex IT needs, and yet also they don't have the resources. So I think there's some decisions to be made there in terms of we need to get rid of some of the clutter again so that we can focus on the day-to-day with what resources we have. And for large enterprises, well, the extreme complexity of what they do has certain attractions for an IT department to manage internally, but at the same time, because of the cost of the data center environment, the management of software licenses, perhaps again in a multinational environment, and let's not forget also that employees, particularly in a multinational environment, are seeking to access business assets wherever they are, and also by a number of different means. So that means not necessarily in the office. That might be at home. It might be on the move. And consider that many of these cloud computing solutions do not penalize you for being, anywhere on the move and wanting to get hold of business intelligence.
Yes, but there are plenty of challenges for those moving to cloud computing, aren't there? I mean, can you rely on the network for a start?
I think that's a very good question. I think there are a number of concerns. Okay. When we had the bubble before, and it was the ASP model, the network was appalling. It was absolutely not there, and I think that was one of the fundamental problems with the model. Now, is the network there today? It depends. It depends fundamentally where you are and whether your cloud computing service provider can deliver access to that application, particularly if we're talking about software as a service, which is the prime mover, I think, today in the business. Irrespective of what device you're using, whether it be a mobile device, a smartphone, a laptop, or whatever, and can deliver it make it work over whatever communications method that you're using. And that is not clear. So is the network there? Not necessarily, but there are ways to manage and harness the network that a good vendor of cloud computing services can overcome for you.
Okay, so how long would it take me? I know this is a piece of string question, but how long will it take me? Okay, I decide to go cloud compute. How long will it take before I see payback? We've already done case studies around cloud computing, focusing on software as a service, and the payback happens within a year. Now, let me be clear and say it depends on the application, depends on the organization, but there are quantified examples of this model delivering benefits, both soft and hard benefits, to enterprises. I would say to any enterprise, however, that tread very carefully. Tread very carefully because this is the next big thing. There is an explosion of new companies in this area. And you know what? They're not all going to survive. They're not all going to survive. And to me, that's maybe the biggest concern. Am I placing a bet on the next Salesforce.com or a complete turkey? And I think that level of navigation it's less about the technology and more about the commercial arrangements and the survivability of the business. Okay, final question. When is it going to become a mass market phenomenon if the payback's so good?
I still think that despite the fact that the payback can be very good for many enterprises because of political issues, structural issues, pre-existing contracts as well, the need to pay down some of the assets they've already invested in. I think we're looking at a landscape that's going to take about 5 years to really become totally mainstream. I mean, not just from very large, very innovative enterprises, but down to individual enterprises, the smaller enterprises typically, that are more cautious and financially trepidatious, if you will. I mean, we have some very good examples of small and medium businesses getting involved in this and making commitments. But to say consistently across the entire rich enterprise market, 5 years, I would say.
So, cloud computing means a number of things, but based on software becoming decoupled from the hardware using virtualization technology, the idea of loosely coupled services running on an agile, scalable infrastructure looks likely to make every enterprise a node in the cloud. And among others, analyst Camille Mendler is convinced as a result of her researches that this is where the computing world is going. So, among the many trends in IT, cloud computing looks highly likely to become reality in the long term.